Right, what's up, Dragon Brood? We're going to talk about some cards that have been underperforming here in the early stages for Ninja Turtles. After we watched a whole bunch of content everybody put up to early access, we talked to different vendors about what's moving, we looked around online to get opinions, and we even looked at some stuff where people were testing things here early to see how cards are working out. And this isn't to say that these cards won't be playable at all. This is just saying if you're thinking about buying these or crafting them on Arena, you might want to slow down a little bit unless you have a very specific use for them, because some of them just haven't met expectations just yet. They might just be looking for a home or something, but let's at least talk about those cards. All right, first up we have Groundchuck and Dirtbag. It's a 4 green for an 8/8 Ox Mole Mutant. It has trample. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add an additional green. Now, we all like fast mana. We like big mana. We like doing crazy things. The problem here is we already have a bunch of small stuff that does this, right? Hell, between Llanowar Elf and the Badger Mole Cub. Hell, this set even has a bovine, interdimensional bovine or something like that that taps for 2 mana, right? We just don't have a use for this. Granted, don't be wrong, 8/8 with trample is great, even for 6 mana, but we have a dinosaur that also has trample and I believe is an 8/8 for 5, and it also can be discarded to give something protection and a bonus, and like it's just better than this. I don't know what we'd be doing with this. Don't be wrong, I experimented with this one myself to see, like, is it good enough that it's just an 8/8 and then we get some bonus mana? The problem is, at that point, you just don't need the extra mana usually. If it in some way maybe like damage your opponent and drew cards or something like that, then like maybe, but as it stands, like I don't think we need to be crafting or buying this right now. Here we have Sally Pride, Lioness Leader, 3 white for a 2/4 Cat Mutant Rebel. When this enters, create X 2/2 red mutant creature tokens, where X is the number of non-token creatures you control. When this attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. This one I feel still borderline. This is why I say like some cards just may not have found their home yet. But I think the problem here is like it's a cat creature, but doesn't really go in a cat deck. It makes mutants, but doesn't necessarily go in any of the decks that have stuff that care about mutants. It does give stuff +1/+1s, which is nice and kind of can work in those decks because there's a free +1/+1 on top of everything else is kind of cool. But that's kind of it, right? For 5 mana, even if I was wanting just free tokens, I could just play like Regal Caracal and then I'm getting life gain as well and still playing cats, I think is the problem here. I don't think the card is bad, but it's a card that also is asking you to overcommit, right? It wants you to have like 3 other creatures and play this so you can get 3 more 2/2s. Which if it works, that's great, and then you get the +1/+1s, but that's just not the way things work out these days. So I would still hold off on this one. Not saying this one's never. I think there's probably a home for this card. We just haven't seen it yet. Oh, this one kind of broke my heart. The Last Ronin, 4 black-green. It's a saga. Chapter 1, destroy all creatures. Chapter 2, mill 4 cards. When you do, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Chapter 3, whenever a creature you control attacks alone this turn, put 3 +1/+1 counters on it. It gains trample, lifelink, indestructible to end of turn. Yeah, the problem here is, even as a sweeper, right, there's already a lot of really good ones. I mean, we even have one that turns into a creature in Sozin, right? So we don't need this at the cost of 6 mana. That's a lot, right? When we have sweepers at effectively 4 and 5 already, and even if we want to spend 6, we're getting other abilities along with the sweeper. This is also saying like you have to play it in a deck that already has other creatures, and then you're hoping you have one of those creatures in your graveyard, and then the next time maybe you'll get to attack with it, and if you do, you get a bonus, but your opponent could also kill it before then. So I don't know, like there might be a spot for this. Like if you're just already playing Golgari, you can chunk one in there. But this is one I'm probably playing just because I already have it, or I want to test it out instead of playing one of the other multitude of sweepers we have available. I don't know if I'm spending real resources to play this one. It's again, this one's not terrible. Of all the ones we've talked about so far, this one's probably the most playable of them. I just don't know if it's necessary in a lot of lists. They're going to spend some amount of resources on it. Not yet. Oh, yes. April O'Neil, Hacktivist. 3 and a blue for a 1/5 mutant, or not mutant, everything else is. This is a human scientist. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card for each card type among spells you've cast this turn. I don't know. I saw several people try this. I saw a few different deck lists that were trying to lean on this with like a variety of spells you could play. I mean, worst case scenario, you're paying 4 mana for a 1/5 and you get to draw a card because you played a creature that turn. But then the next turn, you're kind of like, all right, it's at the end of my end step, so it's not at the end of the next end step or the end step. So you kind of have to commit on your turn. It's like, okay, do I want to play a sorcery and an instant on my turn to be able to draw 2 cards? When we just have cards right now that are great to just 3 mana get 2 cards, we don't really need to play a contrived way to do it. Right? I think that's the issue. Like the card drawing spells right now in standard are really good. And we already have piles of things like opt and whatever that just draw you extra cards for playing them. So you don't really need to play April O'Neil right now. I think if April were to find a deck, it's probably going to be one deck only. I don't think this is the card you want to craft just be tossing into random decks. Granted, a 1/5 blocks a lot of things and might net you 1 or 2 cards, but you're probably going to be able to do something just bigger and better. Not one I'd be excited to craft right now. And like I said, if it does find a home, it's probably only going in one reasonable standard contender, if I were guessing. Yeah, this one hurt me as a Donatello fan, but Donatello Gadget Master, 2 and a blue for a 3/2 human Ninja Turtle. When Donatello deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of target artifact you control. It does have sneak for 1 and a blue. The problem here is, and we went through this for like an hour with chat the other day, where we came up with a whole bunch of ideas you can do with this, and none of them felt extremely better because we played Donatello. It was fine, and even when we put it into a deck, occasionally it did the neat thing, but we probably could have won without it anyway in those games. There might be a world though where you're playing a bunch of bounce spells or things to give them flying or whatever, and you're just copying stuff every turn. Maybe, but you have to really work to get it. And sadly, of the Ninja Turtles in the set, Donatello kind of got the shaft. And I don't mean the bow staff. Like, just not as good as the other ones. Whereas we talk about the others, they just fit in the decks. They just do the thing they're doing. For Donatello to do the thing he does, it has to sneak through. So it means it usually only does it once. Then after that, you just have a 3/2 that your opponent's just blocking forever. And it's not like the other turtles where those other abilities are good or persistent and do something every turn, regardless of the board state. So, a little bit of an unfortunate thing, but I wouldn't craft this or buy these right now. I would wait. This one's kind of in the same vein, but not quite the same. But Krang Mastermind. It's a 6 blue blue for a 1/4, has affinity for artifacts, so it costs one less for each artifact you control, which means you're probably never paying 8. And when it enters, if you have fewer than 4 cards in hand, you draw cards equal to the difference. Krang gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. This was more of just like a card drawing spell that gave you a big body on the ground. And this is, of all the ones on the list, I will say, Krang does exactly what you want him to do. But he made my list because I don't think you need him in a lot of those same decks. Don't get me wrong, like getting extra cards is great, but you're kind of doing it to get like 3 cards and then you just have this like 8/4 creature on the battlefield where all your other creatures are doing the work, right? And there were some times where Krang is just slow and stuck in your hand because while you do get affinity for artifacts, sometimes it can still be a pain to get to even just 4 mana and be able to cast this guy. So, not the easiest thing to cast and not the biggest upside. I feel like Krang had flying or I don't know, some weird menace or something, it would be a little more interesting. But as is, I I think this card is playable. I think you can play it. I just don't think you need to play it. So if you see lists with it, I think you could forgo this card or just add them as you get them. I wouldn't go out of my way to spend a lot of resources on them early because again, it kind of has to be in only one type of deck, which is super artifact heavy, and that's not going to go in a lot of lists. And a lot of times, you want to spend your resources on things you can play in multiple decks or are going to be outstanding even in the one deck that it's in. And this, I don't think, checks either of those boxes for me. But this is one I'm probably going to get the most arguments about in the comments, and I get it. Ah, Party Dude. This is a single green mana for a class. When it enters, each player creates a food. You pay 1 and a green. Whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you draw a card. You can pay 4 and a green. Whenever one or more of your opponents are attacked, Up to one target attacking creature gets +X where until end of turn where X is the number of cards in your hand. I saw a couple people try this and it just did nothing. Like, it's such a weird card. Like, you give your opponent a food and then you're hoping they crack the food for you to draw a card, and then you have to pay 5 at some point in the future just so when you have a creature attacking, it gets, I'm assuming at that stage of the game you only have like 3 cards in hand, so for something to get +3/+3, it's not even like it gets counters. It only lasts until end of turn. The only thing I've seen that I think this card could do very well is be a sideboard card. And then that way, if you're playing against something with a bunch of small tokens or whatever the case may be, then every time those die, you're getting to draw a card. Like, the level 3 is like whatever on this card. You don't even really care that much. But level 2 could be very good as a sideboard option. So that's, if you're playing best of 3, you might park 1 or 2 and just try it if the artifact decks end up being really good. Because even while they're chump blocking with their little 1/1s, you're getting to draw cards. And there's something to that, because at least it's not like only triggers once a turn or whatever. But as far as just putting it main deck in a list, I don't know what I'm doing with this. Maybe you're playing that weird guy from Thunder Junction that gives each person a treasure during your upkeep. Like, I don't know. You have to do something really contrived to make this worth it. And that just feels like you're getting on that spiral of playing less good cards to justify one already not great card. And like, I'm not into it. I'm not into it. So yeah, I would just stay away from this unless you're sticking it in the sideboard. Turtles in Time, 5 blue. Return all creatures to their owner's hands. Each player may shuffle their hand and graveyard in their library. Then each player who does draw 7 cards. Like, we have other cards that do this, that return creatures to hand or whatever, and those don't see that much play. Like, this lets you each draw 7 if you want to, but also your opponent gets to play their cards first after refreshing, so that's not great. And it's a sorcery, so you have to commit to it on your turn. Like, I mean, I guess as a one of in a deck, sure, but I wouldn't go crafting these to like ramp up and do this, because it just draws you more cards. And not only that, if you're trying to make your opponent draw and discard, it doesn't even work because they get the option if they want to shuffle or not. It's not mandatory like some of the other cards have said. So yeah, it's neat, but nothing I think you need. Even in Commander, we have a bunch of other cards that do this on varieties. This is just kind of a redundant thing if you really want that ability. Don't really have much to say about this one. I'd just wait on it. Turtles Forever. This one hurt me to put on the list because I think it has some of the coolest artwork in the set, showing like all 4 generations of turtle style art, which is very cool. But it's 3 and a white. It's an instant. Search your library and or outside the game for exactly 4 legendary creature cards you own with different names. Then reveal those cards. An opponent chooses 2 of them. Put the 2 chosen cards into your hand. Shuffle the rest into your library. Basically, this allows you to get 2 of the 4 creatures that you pick. If you're playing constructed, you're picking from your deck and your sideboard. The thing here, though, is this likely, like, we've had effects like this before, right? We've had a blue card and a green card for like lands, for spells. This one's for legendary creatures. The thing, though, is that you're kind of going to get the 2 things that your opponent sees as the least threatening. So you're just playing it to get 2 additional bodies. And if you're already playing a lot of legends, there's a chance some of your creatures are already on the battlefield, so you're kind of limited on what choices you could get. And honestly, these tend to only pop up, or these types of cards tend to pop up when they're part of some combo, right? Where 3 of the pieces are already going to help you pretty much at any given point in time. So you're getting at least 2 of them, and then you can kind of go off and do your thing. So again, this is one of the cards that if it shows up, it's probably in one type of list. Though, I don't know, maybe I'll experiment with it in some Naya Legends list or something. But generally speaking, I don't think this is a card you want. The upside is it is an instant, but even if you play it, you're probably playing 1 or 2 copies. I don't think you're going crazy with 4 of these right now. If the right deck comes along, great. 4 up, ship it. But I think until we see that list, I'd slow down on this one. But yeah, I have to admit, a couple of things in this list were a little bit nitpicky, but I feel like we saw enough results to back up why they made the list. However, you might feel differently, and I get it. You'll want to put that in the comments. But also, Remember to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff, because we do have a series of single card strategy videos coming out. We'll be talking about stuff about Ninja Turtles. We also have another video that you should watch after this one that tells you about cards you should craft that have been overperforming. So be sure to check that out. But that's all I have for now. We'll see you next time.